their bags in search of adventure, escape, or peace. They leave behind the familiar comforts of home, stepping into new worlds full of promise. But for some, that journey ends in chilling silence. No goodbyes, no explanations, just disappearance. Today we dive into 5 of the most perplexing cases of tourists who vanished without a trace. Cases that remain unsolved. Cases that haunt investigators and loved ones alike. We don't know what forces, natural or human, must have claimed these travelers. And could their fates have been avoided? As we explore these mysteries, remember, these aren't just stories. These are real people whose final chapters remain unwritten. This is 5 tourists who vanished without a trace. Lars Mittank. This case is known to be the most famous tourist disappearance in Europe. In July 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank from Germany arrived in the coastal resort of Golden Sands, in Varna, Bulgaria. Like thousands of other young Europeans, he was looking for a week of sun, beachside relaxation, and nightlife with friends. Lars was known to his friends as reliable and level-headed. Nothing in his background suggested mental health concerns. By all accounts, he was enjoying his vacation right until things took a disturbing turn. 4 days into the trip, Lars became separated from his friends at a nightclub. According to witnesses, he got into an altercation with 4 men, reportedly Bayern Munich soccer fans. When his friends found him later that night, Lars seemed shaken but physically unharmed. The next morning, Lars complained of ear pain and dizziness. A local doctor diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum and advised him not to fly. The doctor prescribed an antibiotic called cefuroxime and recommended Lars stay in Bulgaria a few extra days. This is where the story becomes truly bizarre. Lars's friends had to return to Germany as scheduled, leaving him alone at Hotel Color in Golden Sands. The day after his friends departed, Lars's behavior changed dramatically. He texted his mother, claiming he was being followed and felt unsafe. One message read, "I don't know what's happening. I'm hiding. I need to get away from here." Lars then checked out of his hotel abruptly, visibly anxious according to staff. He took a taxi to Varna airport, planning to catch a flight home despite medical advice. What happened next was captured on the airport security cameras. Lars is seen entering a medical center inside the terminal for a quick checkup. The doctor again advises against flying. But Lars appears increasingly agitated. Then comes the moment that has puzzled investigators for years. Without warning, Lars suddenly bolts from the medical center. He's seen sprinting through the terminal, glancing behind him repeatedly as if being chased. He rushes outside, leaving behind his luggage, wallet, phone, and passport. The final footage shows Lars scaling a fence surrounding the airport and disappearing into a sunflower field. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. Search efforts in the surrounding areas yielded nothing. No body, no personal items. Nothing to indicate what happened to him after he fled. Psychological expert says what we're seeing could be consistent with a sudden onset of paranoid delusions, possibly triggered by medication interaction, concussion from the fight, or extreme stress. The fear in his face appears genuine. He truly believed he was in danger. But was he? Some theories suggest Lars may have witnessed something he shouldn't have, possibly related to drug trafficking in the area. Others point to the medication he was prescribed, noting that cefuroxime can rarely cause psychiatric side effects. Nearly 11 years later, Lars's mother still searches for answers. Despite international attention and numerous reported sightings, Lars Mittank remains missing. His case has become one of Europe's most puzzling tourist disappearances. The final moments was caught on camera, yet the ending is still unknown. Rebecca Coriam. She vanished from a Disney cruise. On March 22, 2011, aboard the Disney Wonder cruise ship somewhere in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico, 24-year-old crew member Rebecca Coriam disappeared under circumstances that continue to raise questions. Rebecca, from Chester, England, had been working as a youth activities counselor on the ship for 10 months. Described by colleagues as outgoing and responsible, she was last seen at approximately 5:45 a.m. when the ship's CCTV captured her on the crew deck. The footage, which Disney has been reluctant to release in full, shows Rebecca talking on a crew phone. She appeared distressed, ending the conversation and walking away wearing men's clothing, a basketball shorts and a t-shirt that weren't hers. When she failed to report for her morning shift, Crew members searched the ship and alerted the captain. But by then, the Disney Wonder was in international waters, creating a jurisdictional nightmare, because the ship was registered in the Bahamas. The investigation fell to a single Bahamian police officer who spent less than 1 day on board. He concluded that Rebecca had been swept overboard by a rogue wave. However, this explanation raised immediate red flags. Maritime records show that the seas were calm that night, with wave heights of just 4 to 5 feet. This was hardly the conditions for a rogue wave. Additionally, to be swept from the crew deck, Rebecca would have had to go over a substantial railing designed specifically to prevent such accidents. More disturbing details emerged in the days following her disappearance. Rebecca's credit card continued to be used after she vanished. Some of her personal belongings that should have been in her cabin were missing. Former crew members said the crew areas were monitored constantly. If someone went overboard, alarms would sound. There are protocols. Yet none of that happened. And with this, the investigation was minimal at best. Rebecca's family has since raised serious questions about Disney's handling of the case. They believe vital evidence was destroyed or withheld. In 2017, a crew member who had been on board came forward claiming that Rebecca had been involved in a physical altercation in the hours before her disappearance. Disney has denied this account. Adding to the mystery, Rebecca's family received her belongings from the cruise line, including her laptop. But when they had it examined by experts, they discovered the hard drive had been wiped clean. The private investigator says, the hurried investigation, the missing evidence, the continued use of her credit card. These aren't hallmarks of an accidental death. These are red flags pointing to something potentially more sinister. Laws regarding crimes at sea remain complicated and often inadequate. Because of the ship's Bahamian registry, Rebecca's case never received the thorough investigation her family believes it deserved. Rebecca's parents have continued to seek answers, having established a foundation to help families of those who disappear at sea. Meanwhile, what really happened in those early morning hours aboard one of the happiest ships on Earth remains a mystery. Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, lost in the Panama jungle. In March 2014, two Dutch students arrived in Panama. They were eager to experience the country's natural beauty and improve their Spanish. Kris Kremers, 21, with her distinctive blonde hair, and Lisanne Froon, 22, tall and athletic, had spent months planning their trip abroad. After spending 2 weeks volunteering and living with a local family in Boquete, the young women decided to explore the scenic trails near the Baru volcano. On April 1st, a detail that would later take on a grim irony emerged. They had set off with their host family's dog for what should have been a few hours of hiking. The dog returned alone later that day, but Kris and Lisanne did not. When they failed to show up for a scheduled tour the next day, their host family raised the alarm. Immediately, local authorities began searching the popular hiking areas, but found no immediate sign of the women. Then, 10 weeks later, a local woman discovered a backpack belonging to the pair. The contents would only deepen the mystery. Inside the bag were both women's phones, a camera, sunglasses, 2 bras, water bottles, and $83 in cash. The phones and camera revealed a disturbing timeline of events. The cell phones showed that on April 1st, just hours after beginning their hike, someone had attempted to dial emergency numbers. First at 1:39 p.m., then at 1:51 p.m., then repeatedly over the following days. There was 90 attempts in total. Nearly all failed to connect due to lack of signal. Even more chilling was what investigators found on Lisanne's camera. The first several photos showed what you'd expect: 2 young women enjoying their hike, smiling, capturing panoramic views. Then there's a gap of several days. On April 8th, between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., someone took over 90 photos in complete darkness. Most captured nothing but blackness, but when enhanced, a few revealed disturbing details of small reflective objects that might be eyes in the jungle. Pieces of paper with what appeared to be markers. A twig with plastic bags attached. Some analysts believe these were attempts to create signals for rescuers. 2 months later, their remains were discovered scattered along the Culebra River, several miles from the hiking trail. A fragment of Kris's pelvis showed possible tool marks, suggesting to some that it wasn't animals that dismembered the body. Lisanne's foot was found still inside her boot, partially decomposed. DNA testing confirmed these remains belonged to the missing women. Forensic experts say, the evidence presents contradictions. On one hand, the phone records suggest they were lost and attempting to save battery by turning phones on only briefly each day. On the other hand, the scattered remains and unusual photos point to something potentially more sinister. Theories about what happened range from an accidental fall to criminal involvement. Some local guides suggest the women may have been led astray intentionally. Others believe they simply got lost and succumbed to the elements. What's certain is that the dense jungle of Panama holds secrets about Kris and Lisanne's final days, and these secrets continue to haunt their families and puzzle investigators worldwide. David Sneddon, the man who may have been kidnapped by North Korea. In August 2004, David Sneddon, a 24-year-old American student from Utah, was nearing the end of a summer in China. Fluent in Korean and with advanced Mandarin skills, David was hiking through Tiger Leaping Gorge in Yunnan province, a popular trail for adventurous tourists. After completing the hike, David was seen in a Korean restaurant in Shangri-La, where he chatted with the owner in Korean. He mentioned plans to continue traveling before returning to the US for law school. This would be the last confirmed sighting of David Sneddon. When David failed to meet his brother at the Seoul airport as planned, his family grew concerned. His father and brother traveled to China to retrace his steps. Chinese officials quickly concluded that David had likely fallen into the Jinsha River and drowned while hiking. But his family found evidence suggesting otherwise. The Sneddons discovered that David had successfully completed the hike through Tiger Leaping Gorge. Multiple witnesses reported seeing him in towns beyond the gorge, including at the Korean restaurant. There was no indication that he had met with an accident. For years, the case remained a mysterious disappearance. Then, in 2016, a shocking theory emerged. A South Korean news report cited intelligence sources claiming David had been abducted by North Korean agents and taken to Pyongyang to serve as an English tutor. Specifically, some reports suggested he may have been teaching English to a young Kim Jong-un. North Korea expert says, while this sounds like something from a spy thriller, North Korea does have a documented history of abducting foreigners. Between the 1970s and 1980s, they kidnapped dozens of Japanese citizens to train their spies. An American who speaks Korean would be valuable. The timing and location added credibility to the theory. Yunnan province borders regions was known to have North Korean operative presence. And David vanished during a period when North Korea was active in the region. In 2017, the U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed a resolution urging the State Department to investigate the possibility that David was abducted by North Korea. His family has since met with State Department officials several times. Some witnesses claim to have seen an American matching David's description teaching in North Korea. His parents believe he is alive and continue to press for answers. David's father recreated, quote, "We know he wasn't swept away in a river. We know he made it through the gorge. Someone knows what happened to our son, and we won't stop until we find the truth." Nearly 2 decades after his disappearance, David Sneddon's case remains open. Is he living in North Korea against his will? Did he meet with foul play in China? Or is there another explanation for his vanishing? The truth remains elusive. Justin Alexander Shetler disappeared while on a spiritual quest. Justin Alexander Shetler was not your average tourist. He was a wilderness survival expert, former tech professional, and experienced adventurer. The 35-year-old American had spent years traveling the world, documenting his journeys on his popular blog and Instagram account. In 2016, Justin arrived in India searching not just for adventure, but for spiritual enlightenment. After spending time in Rishikesh, a center for yoga and meditation, he traveled to the remote Parvati Valley in Himachal Pradesh, an area known both for its stunning beauty and as a place where tourists occasionally vanish. Justin's final blog post described his plans to trek deep into the Himalayas with a sadhu, to meditate in a cave at 13,000 feet. He wrote, "Going into the wilderness with a sadhu is like a dream or a nightmare. It depends on the sadhu and you." These words would prove hauntingly prophetic, and, before departing, Justin left his belongings with a guesthouse owner in Seoul, mentioning he would return in approximately 3 weeks. He set off in late August 2016 with the sadhu, known locally as Satyanarayan Rawat. When Justin failed to return by mid-September, friends became concerned. His mother, Susie Reeb, flew to India to search for her son. Local police and volunteers began searching the treacherous mountain terrain. In a disturbing development, They located the sadhu who claimed Justin had decided to continue hiking alone after they reached the sacred Mantalai Lake. Days later, searchers found Justin's backpack, camera, and journal near a river crossing. His motorcycle and other possessions remained at the guest house, suggesting he had indeed planned to return. Investigators say the Parvati Valley has earned the nickname Death Valley among locals due to the number of foreign tourists who have disappeared there, at least 24 since the 1990s. Some attribute it to treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather. Others point to more sinister explanations. The sadhu was eventually arrested and questioned. He changed his story multiple times before being released due to lack of evidence. He has since disappeared. Susie Reeb said, Justin was incredibly capable in the wilderness. He had survival training. He wasn't someone who would make a simple mistake on a trail. Something else happened to my son. Some theories suggest Justin may have fallen victim to robbers targeting tourists. Others believe he might have pushed his spiritual journey too far, possibly experimenting with local psychedelic substances that could have led to disorientation. What makes Justin's case particularly haunting are his final social media posts, which seem almost premonitory. Just before leaving for the trek, he wrote, "The longer I'm here, the deeper this spiritual journey becomes. I don't know if I'll ever be back." Despite extensive searches, no trace of Justin Alexander Shetler has ever been found. 5 stories, 5 disappearances. Each one leaves behind more questions than answers. Some vanished into jungles, others into the sea, and some into governments, secrets, or the unknown. What connects these cases is the lack of closure and the silent terror of not knowing. These disappearances remind us of the inherent risks in traveling, though it is not to discourage adventure, but to approach it with awareness. They also highlight the limitations of international investigations, where jurisdiction, language barriers, and politics can impede the search for truth. For the families of Lars, Kris, Lisanne, David, Rebecca, and Justin, the search continues. Perhaps one day the mysteries of their disappearances will be solved. Which case disturbed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more mysteries like this, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next video.